Okay, and I'm here live today with a new friend, and I really love this guy because he's just real. He's just real, and he's honest. And something that Doug says is, I love my clients so much I'd work for free if that was possible.
Not this year, maybe in a couple of years.
So I'm here today with, honestly, when I talk about Doug, is someone who's made it, someone who's worked hard to get where he is, but also he recognizes the value of having a team. He's the first one to create a radio channel, a channel for realtors. And I have a lot of realtor friends. I used to be a realtor too, and that would have been of interest to me. And he's a pilot. He's traveled extensively, and here today with me is Doug Crowe, brand strategist, marketing strategist, and author and publisher of books. And we're going to share with you today about making it interesting, having fun doing what you're doing, and taking it to the next level. So welcome, Doug. Where are you coming in from today?
I'm coming in from the magic of the internet, but I'm living in Charleston, South Carolina right now.
Okay. And how long ago did you move from Chicago?
It's a long and sordid tale. I've always loved traveling, Laurel. So when my son graduated university, I got the phone call three weeks before graduation date. I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, everyone's interviewing and I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, well, just do nothing, just travel. I go, I don't have any money. I'm like, well, come work for me. So I put him in my LinkedIn thing and we went around the world twice.
Wow.
Went to see 5 of the 7 wonders, went to India, Egypt, France, Italy, Greece. It was a great time. When I got home to Chicago, I said, okay, you're on your own now. He goes, what's next? Like, go to work. But my last stop was Cleveland, Ohio, where I spent 9 months in Cleveland. Not because it's the 8th wonder of the world. It's not. But in my world, my parents are in their 90s. And so I stuck around there and realized I need some extra help. And I'm not a professional caregiver. I figured that out in the first month. But 9 months later, like, we should go somewhere warmer than Cleveland and closer to my sister, who's a nurse practitioner. So Mom didn't want to move. I said, if I move with you to Charleston, would you like that? And she said, yeah. So I came down to Charleston to be close to my parents. That's the long version.
Well, what I hear from you is how important family is and mentoring your children. I believe too that travel is a great teacher.
Yeah.
People think that Canadians all speak French, but that's not true. Like, we speak English and French. I speak no French, but my children went to a full French school because I just felt like, there's this opportunity here. Let's do it. And I learned early on that learning another language teaches you another culture, but it also teaches you to look at the world differently. And that's what I hear you gave your son.
I've traveled to 43 countries or 44 now, but I'm no language expert. My girlfriend's a really good ear. She picks up languages really quickly. She speaks 4 now or 5. But me, I'm like, I just get along with a little, like waving my hands and saying,
Yeah, well, you just need to have someone like that when you travel.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's good. Right. So what you were telling me about one of your recent projects, and I found this really interesting. So if you'd share with people about the latest project that you did.
Yeah. People say, what do you do, Doug? Oh, I help people create the book that leverages their platform, blah, blah, blah. They want to write a book or create a book if they don't want to write. We have ghostwriters. And they want to create a legacy for themselves or maybe build a business. And this gentleman came to me a little over a year ago and he said, yeah, I'd like to create a book. It's a legacy piece for my kids. And, well, what do you do? And he sent me his resume and he sent me his table of contents, which had, I think, 56 or so chapters. And I'm reading it over. I'm like, who is this guy?
Resume.
He's like the Forrest Gump of India. He's like, I played it on the front lawn with Indira Gandhi's kids. I met Bobby Kennedy. I was a rocket scientist. I got accepted in med school. I didn't take that. I became a lawyer, a venture capitalist. Oh, and by the way, I I found this little company you've heard about called stamps.com. They just sold for like 6.6 billion. But when I was at NASA, my team and I invented GPS.
I love it.
I don't normally do memoirs and autobiographies because people think that they're like, people care about them. We did his. It's a great book. It's
What's it called?
It's called Autobiography of an Immigrant by Mohan Ananda. I think I got a copy here somewhere. Yeah, it's right up there. But yeah, he's a good friend, and he's been a delight to work with. It's probably one of the things you mentioned. Like if I had to do this for no money, if I didn't need income, I would still do this because I meet the coolest people.
Right.
And everybody has a really good story. Sometimes I got to pull it out of them, but I've done books for athletes and leadership experts and politicians and criminals, and well, sometimes that's the same thing. And entrepreneurs and just about every walk of life. It's I just love hearing good stories, especially stories that can impact and make the world a better place. Sounds woo-woo, but it totally fuels me up. And we can do a book. We did a book for Emily Chang. She's a former CMO of Starbucks Asia. Her book is called The Spare Room. And she did a TED Talk on it. You can look it up. Her walking the street, sees this 14-year-old prostitute exchanging her body for lunch or dinner, whatever it was. And she's got to do something. So she buys a girl dinner. And when dinner's over, she's saying to herself, well, now what? I just took off the street for an hour. What am I going to do? Put her back on the street? Mm-hmm. So Emily brought her home, where she stayed for about a year and a half.
Wow.
And her book and her thing is about everybody has a spare room. And it might not be an actual room. It could be a spare change in your pocket, a spare hour of your week, whatever you've got. We have extra. And to squander it is kind of a slap in the face of the universe. So it's a great book.
What a great story.
Yeah, right.
I totally agree with you with everyone's got a story. And when I work with clients, one of the first steps we do is their heroines. I usually work with women, but heroine's journey, because they have to write it out. If they don't write it out, when they're out there marketing themselves, they tell their story. But especially with women, all of the details, right?
What do they call it? They call it spaghetti and waffles, right? Women are like, and guys are like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Someone was introducing me one time, and they said, don't ask her what she does. It's a really long story. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to do something. And it is therapy. It's at the highest level.
It is. Proper storytelling is an art form, and it can be learned. But even I'm working with some people right now, and I'm a pretty good storyteller, but I still have ways to go when it comes to leaving breadcrumbs or clues or those cliffhanger moments that want to pull a person through their story, which in a nonfiction world is not easy to do. We talk about, leadership principles. Well, what story is going to back up that point, and how can you not finish that story to pull them through to the next chapter? Right. It's kind of a good skill to have.
It is, absolutely. And actually I'm just in a training about applying your story to your business. And it's not a new program that's out there, but it's like it just shows the power of it. These gals made $650,000 in a weekend of marketing their program. They know how to tell a story pretty good. I want to learn from them.
and it's how to tell it with intention and with subtle bullet points of the things that people need to have in order to be comfortable to engage with you, right? It's your origin story, for example. It's only relevant if it resonates with your values and the values you want to attract. Your origin story, as it relates to a business proposition, only matters if not even the tactics of it, but the underlying tone or values, again, relate to what you're selling. It's really important to understand the psychology of why you're telling it, not just a blah, 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 here I am. Who cares? How does it relate to you, the listener?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when I started the interviews, I learned very quickly that I had to create a process for people to go through because they'd fire hose. And
Yeah.
right. And it's just everything. And I just say, women, and I'm a woman, I totally get this
Yeah.
because our Neanderthal brain is all about the communication. Cavemen went out and, got
Yeah.
the dinner. The women went out and talked to the other women in the
Right.
villages and exchanged. Yeah. And so we're still doing that today.
And
But we
we
kind of
learn through stories. Stories predate languages, right? There's cave paintings before there was language. It's very part of our DNA for sure. Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So the interview process has brought me hearing so many stories
Yeah, I
and
bet.
learning how to fast track people to, okay, do this, don't do this, so that you get your message across.
Nice.
And in the process, I get to meet really wonderful people, cool
Great.
people like you. And this is a good example because we met in a networking event,
Mhm.
and it was you and I were both aligned with, let's get together, let's talk, let's get to know each other and see
Yeah.
how we can work together.
Yeah.
And so many of them get on there and it's like, oh, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to sell. And it's like, so
I had a call with somebody from our group just the other day, and you didn't fill out my assessment. I said, yeah, I just want to talk to you. And then she starts telling me about her business. And after about 1 minute, I'm like, this sounds great. I think I know somebody who could use this. Let me give you, what's their pain point? What's your ideal customer? I just went right into referral mode because that's the way I was trained, is to, give first. But I mean, I don't know that much about her program. I just liked her, like I like you. And like, that sounds pretty cool. I think I know somebody. And I'll understand more about her product and service once I get her on my podcast. But right now, I just want to network, make sure she's not shareable, referable,
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that was an uncomfortable lesson that I learned too. You want to meet people, see what their agenda is. Everybody
Yeah,
has an agenda, even if they say they don't.
sure.
There's something like you and I, it is about, we do have an agenda.
Yeah.
It's to serve, but it doesn't mean that I have to be served or you have to be served. And that's one of the reasons why I really connected with you.
Yeah.
It's big
My
picture.
agenda is to give your audience some value today. That's my total agenda. Is what can I give you guys to make this worthwhile to watch the whole, however long this is going to be? Yeah.
Right. However long I can draw it out of you, and
Ah,
you're interesting to talk to.
yeah.
So today there's so many people that are writing books, and you're such
Sure.
an expert at it, and you have a
Mhm.
team. Like that's the other thing to the audience is
Yeah.
recognizing when it's time to up level and bring other people on, because
Yeah.
otherwise you may lose hair along with sleep. And so you have a great team that you work with, and they help you develop your
Yeah.
copy and so on, so that you get to do your brilliance. So
Right. It's
um,
mainly operations. That's where my weakness is, and all the details and follow up and systems and SOPs and technology and stuff. I love the storytelling. I love meeting my clients, but there's so many technical nuances of, formatting a book, uploading a book, getting it on the marketplace, getting an audiobook created, all those things that have to do to make it really successful. No author on the planet, no successful author on the planet can launch and market a book by themselves. Not possible. Nobody's got all the skill sets, let alone the time. So,
well, that brings a really great point. So how do you
mhm.
feel about the collaboration books, and how do you like to work?
You mean the compilation ones where there's like 20 authors?
40, 50?
40? Okay. Was your question, how do I feel about them?
Yeah. What do you probably have, it's good for this or it's good for that.
I'm trying to
I
think of a nice way to say how much I hate them. Hold on a second.
okay.
Um,
I can see the benefit of the community around them. I
yeah.
can see what would you recommend to people if it's their first book? What you
Okay.
know,
I would avoid a compilation book like the plague, and I'll tell you why. I'm sorry. I'll just be straight with you, I guess.
yeah.
Think about the reader for a moment. Okay. You're reading a book, And the book has one personality, one idea, and then there's a new personality, a new idea, and then another person, another idea. What's the common thread amongst all? Oh, it's the same topic about, energy or life or whatever it is. Yeah, it sounds to me like a magazine, not a book. Okay, so you're putting a magazine format almost inside of a book. And the way I've seen these things marketed, unfortunately, is the nail in the coffin for me, because they're saying, well, we put 40 people in there, everybody buys 100 copies, we're an automatic bestseller, and we'll all promote it, and we'll all share in each other's glory, because it's like, an insurance program where a rising tide lifts all ships. Sounds okay. The ones I've seen, nobody is going to equally promote the book. But worse is this, as from a reader's perspective, always keep the reader in mind. If I'm promoting my book, oh, wow, thank you, Doug. I really where are you in the book? Oh, I'm in chapter 7. Thank you. If by chance they even get the book, what are they going to do? They're going to look at my chapter because they may know, like, or trust me. Yeah. All the other chapters, maybe. Yeah. Maybe not. So if you're going to go to the trouble of being in a book, just do your own.
Okay.
Sorry, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Back to my friends.
You're someone who works in the field, so that's valuable for people to digest that. And
the reader. Think of the reader. Think of the reader. Yeah.
So I know we hear it all the time. I'm not published yet. I'm working on stuff, and so I'm looking in all directions. And because of the internet, we have access to so many different points of view. And and I always say, don't believe anything I say. Go out and do your research. And same for the audience. What's your purpose? In your book. And I know people who still have garages full of books from the way we used to, and they insist on selling them at the $75. That it's like, it's going to turn into compost. That's right. But so, and the talk around, well, they say Amazon, well, it's top seller in 6, all the different categories in that. But I understand the strategy behind it, but isn't there some leverage there? Because there is a potential reader out there. Sure. How do you feel about doing Amazon? And then tell us about your process.
Sure. Amazon is a funny beast. When I first got started, a good friend of mine showed me how to make a book an Amazon #1 bestseller. I'm like, oh, wow, really? So we've developed a 3-part system with our email, our social media, and our PR and our book clubs to pump out all this content in one powerful day to make the book a bestseller for that day. And it is, right? It's a true statement. You can't deny it. But the next day, it's generally not, or the next week, it certainly isn't, because Amazon's algorithm ranks best-selling books by the hour, and there are thousands of categories. There's a very famous guy who was so ticked off with Amazon's algorithm and the fact that everyone saying they're a bestseller. He took a picture of his foot and made that a book and made it a bestseller. So we have been promoting the fact that we do bestsellers, but every single phone call I have with my clients, I always say these words. Yes, you'll be an Amazon #1 bestseller for a couple days or a week maybe. And it's just a badge. You'll make no money with it. You'll have the cachet. You can change the cover and make that part of your brand. But it doesn't mean anything except to people who don't really understand it, which is growing. So we do it. It's there for our clients, but we really focus on reverse engineering the entire process. And if I can leave you guys with one really cool tip today, this could be a game changer for anybody who's going to think about doing a book. I've done this for 12 years. I've spoken to probably 1,000 people. We've done a lot of different books, as I mentioned. But one thing nearly everybody comes to me with is one of two things. This is a cool story. Everyone's going to love it. Or I'm not sure if I'm good enough. Those are the two extremes we get. So I say to both of them, great. What's your expectation? Oh, I want to be a bestseller. I want to be a New York Times bestseller. I want to sell 1 million copies. Okay, great. That's fine. The odds of selling 1 million copies is harder to do than winning the lottery based on the actual numbers. That's how many 2 million new books a year, every single year worldwide. 33 billion books have been published. 33 billion. Okay. 2 million new ones a year. Your odds are slim to none. But if you do what Procter & Gamble does, if you do what Ford Motor Company does, if you do what McDonald's does, and test your idea before you write a single word, I can guarantee you'll sell some books. I don't know how many. That's another question. But I can guarantee your book will work if you do 3 things. Number 1, what we do in our company is we'll take a person's idea, maybe a title or 2, and we make up about a half a dozen book covers with a couple different titles, and we do a focus group, right? We'll say, who's your avatar? Who's going to read this book and why? And ask them what they like, what they don't like, and why on the actual title and cover, because people judge a book by its cover. The second thing we do is we'll go to that category in Amazon and look at over 100 3-star reviews. I ignore 1-star reviews. People are just angry, and we ignore 5-star reviews because those are somebody's mom or their brother. But a 3-star review is somebody who's probably read the book and has something constructive to offer. And so we'll take 100 of those reviews and create a pie chart and an actual categorization legend for our clients. So here's what people in your category are saying they liked about this book and what they didn't like about these books, because there's a bunch of them in there, about 100 reviews. It's generally over the course of a dozen or so books. But we get actual audience feedback on what they're looking for and what other authors are missing. I wish they would have done this. I wish they would. When something else comes up over and over again in a category, how come he's not talking about X? Well, guess what one of your chapters should be? It should be that, because your audience is asking for it. It's called research, right? So mock-up book covers, focus group, and research. When you put that together, you've got something. And if you go one step further, and we've done this for a few clients, we'll actually get some narratives from people. Like, what story can you relate about this chapter title? What would you like to offer? And occasionally, the focus group has some really good stories. And now we're talking, this is chicken soup for the soul 101, but you can get other stories from other people to give your book some context, some character, a little more color and flavor other than just your little life, right? Other people can contribute. And then guess what happens when your book is actually done, 6 or 9 months later? Hey, Bob, remember that story you gave me? It's on page 43. You want to help me launch the book? Yeah. It's not a compilation book. It's a story from somebody who's contributed to your book. Wow. So it's a lot of preparation goes into creating a product like Ford Motor Company does. They don't just say, I'm going to make a car. They spend probably millions on doing their research. Mm-hmm. You can spend $1,000 and get this all done for you in 30 days and know with a certainty that your book is going to resonate with your target audience. There you go.
Strategy, like based on the analytics. Yeah. Otherwise, it's the spaghetti method.
Well, there's a lot of people that have really cool stories, but how you tell it and why you're telling it is kind of important. So you got to understand your audience and what they're looking for. And as you've mentioned earlier, things are changing so rapidly. You can't come out with a book with a cover that looks like it was done in 1996. And I was reading a Neil Patel blog post just a couple of days ago, actually, and he talked about content marketing. And that was a new buzzword a couple of years ago, and it's over now.
Oh, what's the word? What are they using?
No, I'm sorry. There's no way you can produce enough quality content to compete with 30 years of content that's out there. Wow. It's like there's a blog for every 7 people on the planet now.
Right.
There's 1.6 billion blogs, right? So there's you can't compete. There's only a couple of ways to compete now, and it's not by putting out content, because why would somebody read me when they could read from, Tucker Max, right? Why would someone read from, no disrespect, from some life coach when they can go listen to Tony Robbins? Oh, and there's 1,000 other people like him that are even more successful than you. Who are you? Yeah. You're a drop in the ocean. And it's the ocean is getting larger it's expanding, exponentially.
Yes.
So there's only two ways to compete with that.
I started online in my business 6 years ago, and my coach, who's all based on strategy, and she talked about the being seen in the sea. Well, it's like we're in an ocean of overwhelm, and this last 18 months has dramatically impacted, and it will never be the same.
No, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. There's only very few ways to compete now, and it's not going by just putting up a blog post with a cute picture of a bunny on it. You've got to do something, very useful.
Yeah.
And you've got to build a community around it. You can't just say, "Here I am."
Yep. Yeah. Serve and have community. So when we talk about branding, because you're everything that you're talking about is branding, and so how does that look, say, for a life coach that wants to put out a book, and what do you say? What do you have them do?
Well, again, there's no nice way to say this, but I probably wouldn't work with a life coach. Let's use a different example. Let's say it's a consultant who consults in the AI space, right? Okay. Artificial intelligence, right? And he's worked with a couple of companies, but he's new in the space. He'd like to break into the Fortune 100, talk about their AI needs, etc. Okay, cool. So again, back to research. Even more important in the technical space. If it's not technical space, it's still apropos here. You've got to know what your customers are actually hungry for. You got to understand their pain, what they've tried, what they've failed at. You've got to ask your audience. And the more you do that and you start jotting down their exact words of what they tell you, you use those words in your marketing copy, in your prose, in your book. And now when they look at that stuff, oh my gosh, it sounds like me. Yeah, dummy, because I researched you the past 6 months. Yeah. So understanding who you're talking to, understanding their mind and their heart, what's keeping them up at night, it's vital. Yeah. I mean, you've got to understand them. So getting into their head space and their heart space is super critical, and creating that masterpiece book out of that doesn't happen. Again, I'll make the bash feel, but people say, like, bestseller in a weekend, or write your book in a week, or man, it takes me a weekend to come up with a headline, let alone a whole book. I mean, a well-done book it requires thought and perspective, and sometimes research. So if I was doing a life coaching book, well, I would probably focus on celebrities who've hired a life coach, or find out what kind of things they looked for. Maybe what do you ask, and how your life coach doesn't need a life coach. I mean, how do you measure anyone is going to be, you're going to pay money to consult with you? Yeah, there's due diligence involved here. So if I was be approached by somebody like that, I'd say I'd want to get into their client's head more than theirs, quite frankly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it absolutely makes sense to me. So that's certainly how I work, and it just makes sense. Base it on strategy. What are they looking for, and using their exact words. Those for everyone who's watching, that is those are nuggets of gold. I'm here with Doug Crowe, who's a brand specialist, publisher, has traveled the world, and he's just a really great guy. And you're smart at what you do, because you've got a team, and you get to do what you love to do. And one of the things that Doug shared with me was how his clients are more interesting than he is.
For sure.
And he just loves hanging out with them, and would do it, aside from, the fact that the bank still takes cash, so
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they might be taking Bitcoin soon. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm
Uh,
hearing.
I have my little play money in there. I'll just sort of watch it go. We'll see what happens. But
Right.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
it's a fun space. And for people who are thinking about doing a book, strongly encourage you to do research, to check things out, to vet it, talk to your audience at a deep level. Don't be in a hurry. Things change rapidly, but if you get to the core issues, those are timeless and those will remain.
Mhm.
I had a client years ago who was an executive at Fujifilm, and we had worked on a book for her, and we did what's called an evergreen book, which is no matter what happens in the next 10 years. She was in social media. You go ahead and do your book about your journey, purpose, intentions, strategy, but don't get into the weeds on social media. It's going to change. She said, okay, fine. That was our book. We finished it. And then she got a call from CES, Consumer Electronics Show. And a company was offering to pay her, I think it was like $5,000 to come and speak at CES. And she said, sure, this is in November. They said, oh, and bring your book. She said, oh, Crowe, I'll bring my book. The Short Woman Tall Order book. No, your social media book. Now, she's a salesperson, so she didn't say I don't have it. She said, oh, okay, I'll bring that one. And then I got a call 44 days before CES saying, Doug, I need another book. I'm like, when's it due? 44 days. Our normal turnaround is like 6 to 9 months. Like, okay, well, Georgia, we're going to have to work like every day on this thing. She says, I know. And we brought in some of her teams, some of my team, and she was speaking at CES, sold thousands of books. It was a very big success for her. But that's an extreme example. Most well-done books take time.
Well, you
And
had a
that's
track
okay.
record with her.
Yeah.
You knew how to work with her, and you already
Yeah.
had, that feel for the
Yeah.
audience. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fabulous. So, Doug, thank you so much for all your wisdom and so
Sure.
graciously sharing that with us today. And
Mhm.
so, I'm going to drop a link in the chat box here for everyone. You
Yeah,
want to
sure.
talk about that? That is,
Yeah, we all know what a lead magnet is. It's some PDF, something you can, look at or learn from and maybe execute on quickly, hopefully, and or put it in your trash right away because you didn't pay for it, right? So I decided to do something a little unique. On the whole vet and validate your idea thing, for your audience, I'd like to actually do that live for them. There's no obligation. I don't need to work with anybody. I have plenty of clients coming in, but I love stories. And I love helping people make their books successful. So I'll invest a 30-minute call with anybody who clicks on a link, authoryourbrand.com/go. You click on that, schedule a chat with me. I'll send you the form later on the whole research thing that we do, and then spend some time with you and go over your ideas. And most importantly, probably line you up with some alliance partners. Now think about this. This is the last thing I'll leave you with. People try to sell books one at a time. I mean, when was the last time you made any money selling a $20 item? You got to sell thousands of these things. That's not easy to do. But what if your book was perfectly aligned with a nonprofit, an association, or a corporation? And because of the marketing you do, and because you've aligned with that company's or organization's values, you say, hey, I've got an idea, and I do this book specifically for that demographic. You can move 10, 20, 30,000 books and actually make money with your book.
wow.
So on our call, I will go through my Rolodex, your idea. I guarantee you I'll have somebody I could hook you up with.
I'm sorry, you had me at Rolodex.
I'm over, I had a Rolodex. I don't have one anymore. I had a Rolodex, but it's been a while.
I'm just typing this in.
No, you're allowed. It's okay. I don't have a rotary phone, but I have a digital Rolodex. Yeah.
Okay, so and I love your website too. Like it's interesting, and I signed up for your newsletter, and I shared some of your stories because they're really great stories. They're really great information, and I got lots of feedback from
Oh,
people on
great.
that too. So it was like
Thank you, Laurel.
that was excellent. It was easy to promote you to my audience, and I just want to say hello
Yeah.
to everyone who's coming in live with us right now, or maybe you're joining us on the replay. I'm here with Doug Crowe, who's honestly a really good human being. I really like this man. I'm honored to call you a friend. I would consider you a friend and
Yeah.
colleague in
Wow.
business.
We connected right away on that chat on our JV thing. We're like, oh yeah, you're one of the smart ones. This will be fun. We can chat. It's
Uh,
easy. Yeah.
I appreciated that because
Although you did start off challenging me. You said, Doug, who's this we? Because everybody in the call is like solopreneurs, and I kept saying we, and you're like, we? Well, are you who are you? What? And like, oh, I have a team of like 12 people that work for me. I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah. So yeah,
That was
you
funny.
have a true entrepreneur's heart and a heart for giving and giving back, and
Yeah.
that's reflected in the people, the stories that you've told us about the people that you have. I love your gal from Starbucks in Asia. That was just such a touching story, and
I've got
as
more like
Emily,
that, Laurel.
yeah.
I've got a guy who was yeah, he busts sex trafficking rings in Southeast Asia, and
Well, we did talk about that because
yeah,
I
yeah,
have some people in that direction too, but this is
yeah,
something that, I because there's no conspiracy discussion here.
yeah. Leave that for
This
somebody else.
is about humanity.
Yep.
And
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to do, and my big mission is to not ignore or not ignore that kind of noise out there. Right? It's there's just we need more good news and more positive things in our head. And I haven't watched the news as a habit in 30 years. I just refuse to be brainwashed. I'd rather go out in nature and go for a walk and look at the trees. The trees don't participate in drama or politics, so that suits me just fine. Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. We live in a location that allows us to be like that, but I don't want to be like a mushroom either.
No,
Or like head in the sand and oblivious, and
right.
people will try to convince me sometimes because I don't respond, and I have to tell them
Love that.
there's a reason why I'm not giving your conversation energy. So
Yes.
yes, I am aware, but
Here.
yeah,
Yeah.
so good for
Yeah,
you.
that's right.
Good for you. So you're
Energy grows
spreading the
where
good
attention
word.
flows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're spreading the good word of so many messages that need to be heard. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate you, Doug, and thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
And to everyone who's watching live or on the replay, take this man up on his offer. That's and check out his website. He's fantastic. And it's not. I'm sure you're going to hear more and more about Doug, and he's kind of the guy behind the scenes in a way. So,
Yeah. I
but
don't that much.
so thank you again so much.